Hello, good evening, and welcome to Old Iron Garage. Thank you for tuning in. So tonight on the bench, I have an old Kohler engine that I'm going to be working on. When I received this engine, it was very incomplete, many parts missing, pretty much everything missing off the outside of the engine. It's basically just the block and its internals. Also, the engine, the cylinder was all rusted up. And it was stuck. It was seized up. In this video, I was originally planning to record me getting it unstuck, and I kind of forgot. I got a little ahead of myself, and I started working on it without recording. I totally forgot I was going to record that. So currently, I have the engine unstuck. It makes full revolutions. The valve train is moving. But I'm going to, in this video, I'm going to disassemble what's left and give the cylinder a light hone to see the condition of the cylinder. And also then I'm going to take a measurement of the bore to kind of maybe get a hint at what model engine this might be. It's an old Kohler K series, single cylinder. The reason I'm doing this is I'm not going to be completing and rebuilding this engine and bringing it back to life. I am selling this engine as is for parts or repair, and the guy is coming tomorrow to take a look at another Kohler I have that's mostly complete, non-running, and I intend to, I told him I have a couple other incomplete Kohlers, and he's going to take a look at them. So hopefully I can get this one and a couple others sold and out of my garage. So anyways, without further ado, let's take a look at the engine. So here it is. It is an unknown K-Series model. Probably a 10 or 12 horse is my guess. So let's take a look at it. So first thing to notice here is the threaded portion of the snout that where the nut goes on to hold on the crank or the flywheel is snapped off. So the crankshaft is no good unless someone were to want to bore it out and thread it and put a bolt in instead of a nut, but I don't really see that happening. The block is, well, it's an engine block. The dipstick and the oil fill tube is there. The other end of the crankshaft is fine, so it's a shame the other end, the flywheel end, is damaged. But, yeah, so the block appears to be okay. This isn't cracked out and broken anywhere, so those threads could be cleaned up and you could run another muffler in. Yeah, the valve train is still there. This cover's still there, though the bolts are missing. It even still has the points. But I doubt anyone's going to be using those. The governor's there. I got that freed up. Even that was stuck. So now let's take a look. Spin it around. Let's take a look at the bore. Well, I got to make full revolutions. It won't right now because the oil pan is missing on the bottom of the block. I forgot to mention that. So the splasher, or the dipper, whatever you want to call it, on the bottom of the connecting rod cap is contacting the bench. But I mean, I did have it making full revolutions. So the valve train, the valves actually do go up and down, but one thing I noticed is the exhaust valve is missing the keeper. But the springs are there, everything else is there. The keeper is there for the intake valve. But yeah, let's take a look at the bottom side. Everything appears to be in here, and now I can actually make full revolutions to show you guys that it makes full revolutions. As far as I know, the camshaft should still be good. The lifters, everything's in there. Yeah, the bearings, I'm sure, are probably no good. They might be a little crunchy. I mean, it seems to turn fine by hand, but if you were to take the bearings out and spin them, I'm sure they would not spin as nicely as they should. But, so if somebody were to want to reuse this block, they would probably want to replace those bearings. But the side cover here seems to be in decent shape. All these threaded holes are there. None of them are broken off. Nothing seems to be broken off of that. It is cast aluminum, so it's not as strong as the cast iron, but this appears to be in good shape. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get you guys mounted up in the camera holder, and we will start disassembly. All right, let's get busy. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and take the rod cap off. Okay, so that one's not going to break it loose. So let's go ahead and get a ratchet and an extension and get in there and break it loose. Then I'll just go ahead and thread it on out the rest of the way with the impact. That's pretty tight. Now the parts in this engine that may still be good would include the camshaft and possibly the valve train. I doubt that the piston is worth reusing. I mean, if you're on a real tight budget, maybe if you can get the old rings out of it, maybe slap some new rings in it and reuse the piston and rod if they're any good. First, look at the crankshaft connecting rod journal, and the connecting rod, it actually looks to be really good. I did lubricate everything before I got this unstuck. Anything that would be turning or moving at all, I sprayed it down with some penetrating oil. Everything, absolutely everything. The bottom side, top side, everything. So, now that is loose. I'm going to move the piston to the top of the cylinder. I'm just going to leave it there. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to carefully push it out through the top, though I'm sure there's a ridge up there and I probably won't be able to get it. Unless maybe I take some sandpaper to it. Let's push that piston back down with the crankshaft. And let's try to clean up whatever kind of ridge is there by hand. I don't want to put the hone in there until I can do the whole cylinder, the whole bore, top to bottom. I'm sure it's going to need bored out. I can't imagine that it would run great with just a hone, but it might. I guess it all depends on if the bore is tapered or out around, and how much material you have to take off of the hone to get a good good enough cylinder wall. It would depend on those things. I mean, it's not impossible to just hone it, put new parts in it, and have a good running engine, but doubtful. All right, so let's see if we can get that piston out. I need something to push on it that isn't going to damage that's not going to scratch up the bearing surface on the connecting rod. So I'm going to use a screwdriver handle and try to punch it out. It's coming. It's coming. There we go. Let's take a look at the rings. Surprisingly, the rings are not fully stuck. This piston does not look too terrible. It does have, oh, 1 second here. On this side, up here above the top piston ring, it is eating away a little bit. So that's not ideal. It definitely should be replaced. But someone that's on a really tight budget could still run this piston if they were desperate enough. And the rod, for that matter. Honestly, I would mic it to see what it measures, but I would not be afraid to rerun this rod. I don't really see any signs of any wear or damage, like visually, that is. All right. So, I am actually going to go ahead and, or am I going to leave the rest of this in there? That rod is, or that crankshaft, it's too bad the end of it snapped off, because that looks like it would be a good usable crank, really. It's too, that's a shame. I'm going to go ahead and try to get the side plate, the side cover off of here without busting it. I want to see if I can do that to get the crankshaft out of the way, so when I'm spinning my hone up and down and it goes down out of the bottom of the bore, it doesn't contact the crankshaft and damage my hone. I don't know how stuck on this is. I guess we will find out. I have an idea. I have a couple ideas on how to get this out. I'm just going to give it some very light taps from the inside, and it is moving. I'm tapping on what is easily the thickest part of this cast aluminum piece. It's where it goes around the crankshaft bearing. That way I don't break anything. And as you can see, I was just giving it really light taps. Come on now. Well, all right. Now it's popped loose. We have that off. That bearing actually spins way better than I thought it would. Even that gasket around there looks to be reusable. It looks to be in great shape. But if you were to rebuild this, like I said, unless you were on a super tight budget, parts like these bearings and that gasket and, you know, connecting rod, piston, all that should be replaced. And I found a stick that was behind there. Alright, now let's try to get the crankshaft out. I have never disassembled one of these Kohler K series really, except for the that parts, that incomplete K532 in a recent video. I don't really do much work with Kohlers, mainly because, well, I mean, I collect Bohlins tractors, and I've only had one Bohlins tractor that had a Kohler in it. All the others I've had were Wisconsins or Tecumsehs. Alright, the remains of the crankshaft are out. Now, if that dipstick looks like it's sticking down just a little bit too far, so that will have to come out. But other than that, I believe I am ready to start honing the cylinder. I'm going to put this back together. Put the cap back on the rod. I'm going to put all that off to that side and out of the way. Yeah, this is the first time I've been this far into one of these engines. Looks like the camshaft can just stay in there. Like I said, I've never really torn down one of these before. So I'm just looking at how that camshaft even comes out. Looks like there's what? It's hollow and a pin. There's a pin that goes through it. Is what it looks like. Huh. I'm checking the bearing on the other end, the crankshaft bearing that's inside the block, and that does have, it might just be some dirt or grit that's in there that needs to be flushed out, but it does have some catches to it where it comes against something hard and you gotta kind of apply a little force and then it will continue spinning. But like I said, those really probably should be replaced in order to rebuild this block and get it going again. Alright. So now, I'm going to wipe out the cylinder and just kind of take a look at it. I'm going to get you guys down here. You guys can take a look at it as well. We can see what we're working with. Alrighty. Sorry, trying to get it to focus here. Maybe if I... There's some staining down here where my pinky is. Makes me believe that water was in here at some point. And up here toward the top, you can see where the rings sat, right down here. And then there's some staining, some rust from it sitting. Up here you can see where I went at it with the sandpaper so I can pop the piston out. Come on now, focus. Pretty rusty around that side over here. I mean, it feels smooth-ish, so it might clean up okay with a hone, but really it should be bored out. To do it right, it would be bored out. Like I said, the valve train is free. One moment here. You can see as I turn the cam, the intake valve moves up and down as well as the exhaust valve, but the exhaust valve has no keeper, so that will just like literally just pull on out. All right, let's get you guys put up there, and I will get I'll get a hone ready, and then we'll start recording again. All right, guys, I'm back. So, trying to get the camera positioned. So I have my hone chucked up in my drill. And we are going to get this down into the cylinder. I'll put some lubricant in there, and I'm going to give it a light honing up and down while adding lubricant. I'm not going to worry about using actual motor oil because, I mean, if somebody reuses this block, they're going to rework it anyway. So, here we go. All right. Well, let's wipe it out. No doubt my hand is going to be an absolute mess when it comes out of here. Basically, I just wanted to get the worst of the rust off and get it cleaned up decently enough to see if there's any major pitting or any deep grooves, any serious damage that can't be undone by boring it out. All right, well, let's get you guys down here and have you guys take a look. All right, so this is what we are left with. There's still some staining from rust, and you can see some staining further down. You can still see where the rings sat. Like I said, I'm not trying to bore the thing out, you know. A hone is not the right tool for the job for that. Down there you can see some scratches, but that's further down in the cylinder where it doesn't really matter so much. There's still some staining right here from the rust. Yeah, I think this is a good usable block as far as I can tell. All right, so it is time to measure the bore and stroke. I was told that on the block there's some identifying numbers stamped in on the oil fill side above the crankshaft. I did some cleaning up on the block there, couldn't really find it. All I really found was a number 2, and I don't know what that means. So I'm going to measure the bore and stroke and see what we can find. So the bore measures 3.375. And the stroke, I've got it all the way at bottom dead center already. 3.25. So, I believe, like I said, I'm not super familiar with Kohler engines, but I believe that makes this a Kohler K301, 12 horsepower. So, anyways, I achieved what I set out to do with this engine. That's all I intend to do with this, other than sell it. I have got it freed up. I've got the cylinder wall cleaned up enough to, inspect it for damage, and I have identified what block it is. So anyways, yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button so I know, and hit that subscribe button to see more videos like this in the future. And anyways, I will, it's time for me to move on to the next engine. Like I said earlier in the video, the guy is coming to look at one and might end up taking 2 others home with him. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get those ready for him to take a look at, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, later.